Hello, welcome along. This is the Influence podcast, and today I am super excited to introduce a guest, somebody that I've known now for probably about 18 months, nearly 2 years, and I've wanted to bring on the show for a while. I'm excited to introduce Laura Posey, and I'm going to give a quick background to Laura first and then bring her in, and we'll get to the good stuff straight away. So Laura is an internationally recognized speaker, author, and consultant. She's known as the simple planning specialist for her unique ability to simply and easily laser focus her clients to get dramatic results. What else could you want? Her simple strategic plan is used by over 3,000 companies, from startups to Fortune 100 companies. She's the author of How to Plan Your Entire Year on One Sheet of Paper. I love that. And co-author with Jack Canfield of Mastering the Art of Success. Laura is a graduate of SUNY, I presume it's SUNY, at Buffalo, and holds an MBA from Virginia Commonwealth University. She's fluent in German and currently working on her Spanish. We might have to drop some Spanish in today then. When not on stage or with a client, then you can find Laura traveling the world, playing golf, practicing the fiddle, or snuggling with her rescue cats, Simone and Cicely, at her home in Richmond. The next thing I'd like to do is introduce Laura. So Laura, wow, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jake. Always great to be here and always great to have a conversation with you.
I am genuinely excited. We've spoken a few times now, maybe 3 or 4 times. I always leave the conversation better than when I joined it. I don't know if I could give anybody more kind of credit than that to say I always feel like I've left the conversation better than when I joined it. So I'm excited for this today. I'm going to go straight in, and I'm going to be very blunt, Laura. Why on earth do you do what you do? With so many things that are out there, how did you land on planning? How did that happen?
Like most great things in life, I think it really happened by accident. And it happened because I needed it myself. I'd gotten to a place in my business where I absolutely hated everything about my business. I hated my business partner. I hated my clients. I hated what I was teaching, and I was just completely frustrated. And so I took what I called a sabbatical, which basically meant I just ran away from home for a couple of weeks and went out to the desert in Sedona, Arizona, to kind of clear my head and honestly to try to figure out like how I was going to get out of all of this and go get a job. I just was like, okay, maybe I'm not cut out for this. And while I was out there, I had sort of a crazy moment, and I realized that the problems with my business were because I was just getting up every day and winging it. And that I had never really sat down and said, like, what do I actually want? Like I had some vague idea of, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to have all this time and money, right? Freedom, control, riches. And I had none of those things. I had like all the worst parts of corporate America and none of the good parts. I didn't have a salary. I didn't have any benefits. Like it was just the worst of all things.
Yeah.
And so I sat down and I said, okay, let me get like super clear about what I want. And I realized that, all the stuff that I had was none of the stuff that I wanted. And so I said, okay, well, what's it going to take to get from this pile of crap that I have right now to this shining world of rainbows that I really want? And what are the steps? What do I have to get rid of? What do I have to put in place? And that's the essence of planning. And so I sat down and wrote down on a sheet of paper, like all the stuff that I needed to do and that I was committed to doing as soon as I got home. And like, I couldn't get home fast enough. And, step 1, get rid of business partner. And so, I just did the classic, like, here's a number. You can buy me at this number, or I'll buy you at this number, but one of us is leaving this room as the owner. And so I bought him out, and it was like one of the things on my list was had employees, didn't want employees. I had to go in and have the conversation with them. Guess what? If you want to stay here, you're a contractor. I had a a big building that we were leasing. I'm like, okay, let's get out of the lease. I mean, it was just dismantling everything.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a lot of change.
yeah. But what I realized was that, I planned all the other important stuff in my life. When I wanted to buy a house, I planned for buying a house. When I wanted to just go on vacation, like I'd spend crazy amounts of time planning for my vacation, like down to, don't forget your toothbrush. And here, the sole source of my income, I hadn't bothered to sit down and plan. And it was just such a powerful transformation for me. And when I would meet with clients and I'd ask them like, well, what do you, I'd say like, what do you want to do this year? And they're like, oh, I'm going to grow sales 10%. I just ask like, why? Like, what are you trying to build here? And nobody could answer it. And so I realized there was just this gap for entrepreneurs of really understanding what they wanted to have and having some concrete steps for getting there. And it's been the most transformational work I've ever done. So I just keep doing it.
Yeah, I love that. That is, we could go so many directions from what you've just said. I'm gonna if I may just kind of go a little bit deeper on that part where you just kind of went to the desert. Had you done something like that before? Did you know that was what you needed? Did you just feel that you needed to be separate from everything at the time? How did you know that was the best thing to do?
I think a lot of it was I had been reading a lot about, finding your why and all of that stuff. And I thought, okay, I actually went to the desert because there was a spiritual retreat that I was going to. And so that's what I was going to do during my days. And I figured I'd spend my nights, journaling or something. Because I really thought that I was having a sort of crisis of conscience, that I hadn't found my why. And that's what was really holding me up.
Yeah.
And in some case, in some ways that was it. Like I was doing work that wasn't fulfilling. I was doing a lot of work for big corporations, and I was doing sales training. And, when you're working for big corporations, sometimes you're just the flavor of the month. They're like, oh, we've got some budget. We should spend it on something. Let's spend it on sales training, and you had the best pitch. So there you are doing your thing. But it's really hard to move the needle in a big organization. And so I wasn't feeling like I was really having a transformative effect on people. And even the work that I was doing with entrepreneurs and teaching them how to sell, it's still just like, it wasn't enough, but the biggest challenges were really just, I was just freaking broke.
Yeah.
And I thought, all right, let me go, obviously I've got some hangups about money here because I don't have any. Let me go, see if I can dissociate myself from this, what felt like greed at the time. I'm like, I don't know, having a roof over your head doesn't seem too greedy, but
No, not at all. Not at all. So, well, firstly, thank you for sharing that. It's I love this. The favorite thing about the podcast for me is interviews, because so often listening to people's stories and journeys, there's a lot of things that resonate with me. And I think for me personally, that idea of, and I say this a little bit selfishly, because obviously I'm here, I get the benefit of being able to interview you, but also for people listening as well, in the idea of you talked about finding your why and such as being such a key thing. Do you feel that you found that now? And how, if you have, how important was that in getting to where you are now?
Yeah, I think I'm always looking for something that's a little deeper. I always feel like there's something out there that I just haven't quite grasped. So I don't know that I've found my why forever. I can say that the what I do is incredibly fulfilling, just because I got really, one of the things I wrote down in the like, what I really want is I want to get emails from people, or I want to have them tell me like, hey, the work that we've done has really been transformational for me. Like, I've made huge strides. This has been a life-changing thing for me in some way. And so I've just been kind of focused on, what do I have to do? What work do I have to do? How do I need to structure things so that that happens, that we're having those transformations and people are aware of them and they can trace them back to the work that we've done together. And so if that's my why, yeah, okay, I guess I found it. To me, it's more just the, what am I doing? Right. And the, how am I living my days? And it's this, always this balancing act, if you will, of making sure that I'm getting that emotional charge from working with clients and doing work, but also getting that emotional charge from riding my bike or working on the house or hanging out with friends or going camping or, just finding all of those places in life that bring me that emotional charge and that sense of joy and that sense of peace.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I think of that as my why. I think of it as more of the what and the how, but yeah.
But it's enjoying the journey at the moment.
Yeah, it's really getting up every day and going like, what am I looking forward to today? What's exciting about today? And if there's nothing exciting about today, what do I need to change to make that happen?
Yeah.
What can I do to, or how can I find joy in the like today I got to mow the grass. It's I've been gone for 10 days. The grass is deep. It's been raining, and so I look at that and and it's just sort of reframing and going, okay, well, I have to mow the grass, or, I'm looking forward to mowing the grass because there's this just sense of instant gratification, when you're mowing and it's like you go out there and it's all jungly looking. And then, an hour later, boom, it's all, tidy and smooth and it just looks beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I'm actually, really looking forward to this evening, getting out there and working in the yard, mowing the grass.
I want to follow up on that because people listening will, I think people listening may, if it's the first time that they've heard you speak, may think, okay, so Laura's, got time in her day to go out and mow the lawn and such. Yeah. Does she work hard? Is the business working and is it successful? Now I know from conversations that we've had, it's extremely successful. So what I'm fascinated in is how, well, we'll talk about how you got to that stage if we can later, but what are the biggest mistakes that people make when they are setting goals? And that comes back to what you talked about I want to get 10% more sales. I want to double the business. I want to, all these types of things. And that's quite a driven thing. And it's just go. So what are the mistakes that people tend to make when you speak to them about their planning, and how would you recommend, or what ways could you recommend that people go about it maybe slightly better?
Yeah, I think oftentimes people don't, they're not really clear about what they really want in their lives. And, we're all wired differently, but I can speak for myself. There were so many years where I just thought, okay, the only way I'm going to be successful is to have a 7-figure business. Like, that's the thing. You're an entrepreneur. You got to shoot for $1 million like that. And until you get there, you're just not successful. And after a while, I realized like, I just don't give a crap about $1 million, because I looked at like what comes along with it. And, if you want to get to a 7-figure business, you got to have a bunch of people. Like you just can't maintain it without a team. And I thought, I've been there, done that. I've managed a bunch of people. Don't want to do that again. So I really backed into it. I was like, how much money do I really want to live the way that I really want to live? And I don't have any interest in owning a private island or, 5 Lamborghinis in the garage. Like, it's just not interesting to me. So I just got super clear about what kind of lifestyle do I really want to live? How much money is that really going to take? And I mean, I just sat down and did the math. Like, How much is your mortgage going to be? How much is your car payment going to be? How much do you want to spend on vacation? How much do you want to have to just piss away for no reason, like without having to think about it? How much is it going to cost for the vet bills, or, like all that, just getting super clear about how much money I really needed. And then backing into, okay, well then how much revenue does the company have to generate for me to have that amount of money? And then I got super clear about how much do I really want to work? And I love to take Mondays and Fridays off. I like to have the option, let me rephrase it, to have Mondays and Fridays off, because I like to have really long weekends. And I like to, on my weekends, I like to just use that time to hang out with people who, are working a 9 to 5. And then, like yesterday was Monday, and I did laundry and, piddled around the house, did like life maintenance crap, went to the grocery store, instead of working. And so I think you got to get like super crystal clear about how you want to live your life, and not look at what everybody else is saying and, what the world is telling you, but like, what do you actually give a crap about? And then do the math and figure out, well, how big does my company need to be? And then I like to figure out, like, what's the easiest way to get there? For me, it's like, okay, pick a lane, pick a program, pick a product, and be amazing at that, and ignore all the other stuff. And, people are, and to stop doing all the dumb stuff that doesn't make a difference in your bottom line. Like for years, I wrote tons and tons and tons of blog posts, and I did all this stuff, and, I SEO'd everything. And I was like, you know what? I can't trace a single freaking sale back to writing a damn blog post. So I don't write them anymore. I was just like, and I mean, if you're writing blog posts and they're actually generating money for you, great, keep writing them. Or if you're writing them because it's just super fun and you really love it, great, do that. But stop doing all the stuff that isn't making you money and focus on the stuff that is.
Yeah. You make it sound so simple when that's obviously the name of what you do, but you do make it sound so simple of, where do I actually want to be? What do I actually want life to look like? It kind of makes me think, there's the tale story parable, the fisherman, I think it's in Mexico or wherever, he's living on the beach, and somebody approaches him and talks about, well, why don't you set up a business, and you could then maybe get another fishing rod or another fishing boat, and then another fishing boat, and all this kind of stuff, to the idea of growing this massive business. Yeah. And the guy's like, why? He's like, so you could do what you really want to do. And he's like, what I really want to do is go to the beach and fish, and I'm already doing that.
So, right, exactly.
Why would I want to do all these other things? It's so the process then of actually sitting down and writing those things down. I mean, is this the kind of thing that you take clients through? Is this the kind of process that you when you tell me, what does it look like when you start working with people?
Yeah. So, the first thing that I do is I tell people, like, you've got to decide. And in the root of the word decide means to cut out or cut away. So you got to get clear on all the stuff you don't care about, and all the stuff that you're willing to let go, so that you can focus on the stuff that you really do care about, and the things that are really, truly meaningful to you, and being okay with that. So we always start with the personal piece. Like, how do you want to live your life? What kind of lifestyle do you really want? And it's so unbelievably personal, right? Some people, they're like, I really want to travel. And I say, great. What's the place that you're dying to go? And if they can't in 5 seconds tell me, I'm like, are you sure you really want to travel? Like, is that something you really want to do? And, sometimes they think, oh, actually, I really don't care. I just thought that's, when you're successful, that's what you do. You go to all of these places and you post the pictures on Instagram, right? And it's like, well, no, like, what do you really like to do as a human? Like, what lights you up? And, sometimes it's like, well, I'd like to, grow tomatoes. Okay, great. Like, let's put growing tomatoes in your plan because it's something you really enjoy, and like, let's get clear about you. And then we can go and look at, all right, well, what does your business have to look like to deliver that lifestyle that you really want? And, let's look at the things that need to be done in your business that also align with who you are and how you like to do things. Some people are just pathologically afraid to pick up the phone and call somebody. And it's like, okay, great. Well, we're not going to put calling in your plan for your prospecting. We're going to find some other way to do it. And, some people are like, oh, I know I'm supposed to be on LinkedIn, but I don't like it. And I don't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, well, then we're not going to put LinkedIn in your plan. I mean, it's not your jam. And so we really just work through, like, who are you as a human? What do you like to do? There's a million ways to build a business. And let's build the business that's big enough to do what you want to do and give you the time to live your life. And I find that when you get really clear about how big your business needs to be and what it takes to get it to that level, you start to realize, like, oh crap, this isn't overwhelming. I can, have this really great income. I can have this great life that I really enjoy. And I have all this free time because I'm not spending all this time doing crap that doesn't matter.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds, how can I put, I mean, obviously I'm listening and nodding along, but it sounds very calming. I imagine anybody listening is just like, it's refreshing to hear somebody speaking who's not kind of, come on, let's go for let's double it again and let's triple it again and let's hammer the phones. And as you say, it's quite counterintuitive isn't the right phrase, but it's counter the major message, I guess, that a lot of people share and that people consume on social media. Did you find, or do you find that maybe for you personally, but maybe for your clients when you're working with people, what do you find is the biggest thing for them to overcome? What's the biggest hurdle for people to kind of break through, if you like, as they go through this process?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is all the past failures that they feel like they've had. Because so many people come to me and they're like, I really hear this message of, I don't need $1 million business and I don't have to do all this stuff. But I've been trying to do that for so long and I've been failing for so long that I've got it into my head that I'm a procrastinator and I've got shiny object syndrome and I don't want it enough. And they've just got all this baggage because they haven't created this $1 million business that they never cared about in the first place. They were trying to build somebody else's dream, and of course they failed. And so we have to get rid of a lot of that head trash and go, like, you're not broken. You're absolutely fine the way you are. You've got these ideas about yourself that don't match with who you really are. And when you get really clear about what you want and what you need to do to get there, then it becomes really easy. And you find yourself kind of going like, oh, well, I'm not procrastinating anymore. And I am really focused and I am getting my stuff done. And then the next thing we have to get over is when folks are kind of humming on all cylinders and making the money and having the free time, they start to feel a little guilty because they're looking around at all their friends who are like busting it 60 hours a week and struggling and all this stuff. And they're like, well, damn, I'm working 3.5 days a week and I'm, making good money. And, God, I feel bad of all these people that are struggling so hard. And, and that's a point where you just kind of got to get over yourself and go, well, you figured it out. If you want to share with other people how you did it, if they're interested, great. But there's an awful lot of people out there that just believe that you have to suffer and, that it has to be hard. And if it's not hard, if you're not putting in 60 hours a week, then you can't possibly get there. And, it's like, okay, well, that's their journey. Let them do it.
Yeah. How just coming back to your story as well, how long did it take for you to, when you wrote everything down that you wanted, how long did it take for you to actually achieve all those things? Or did that list continue to grow, or did it change through the process? What was kind of the timeline for all those things to take shape, where you thought, you looked at it and thought, actually, I've got what I really wanted now?
Yeah, it's certainly been an evolution, and I would say to really get everything that I wanted, it's probably taken 10 years. So this is
Okay.
not like, some overnight wave a magic wand process. It took me a long time to figure out, like, what is the work that I really want to do? Like, for years and years and years, I resisted coaching
Yeah.
because I'd got it into my head that coaching was where, you had to have one-on-one calls with people. It's like, oh, I'm meeting with Jake every Tuesday at 2:00. And, I've got to ask him a bunch of questions to get him to come to the answer on his own. And I was just like, God, this feels like freaking therapy, and I don't want to do it. And I don't want to have Jake on my calendar every Tuesday at 2:00. I just want to meet with Jake and solve problems.
Yeah.
And so I resisted some of the work that I do now that I find very fulfilling, because I thought had to do it a certain way. Right. And so now it's like, I have a program where I work with people in groups, and then I just say, and for the one-on-one portion, just get on my calendar whenever you need me. Like, if you got a problem to solve, get on my calendar. It's unlimited. Just here's the link, hop on, we'll solve a problem and we'll move on. And, sometimes that's every week for a while, and sometimes it's every now and then. Just depends on how the problems are going. And so once I kind of figured all of that stuff out, that's where I found that the flow really happened for me.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I love that.
But it took a long time to just weed through, like, where were the places where I was making assumptions or figuring it, like, oh, I have to do it this way because that's the way it's done, instead of, well, no, I just want to kind of do it the way I want to do it, and we'll see what happens. People still tell me I'm nuts for having my calendar be, like, people can book as much as they want. There's a caveat, and I say, like, look, if it gets excessive, we'll have a conversation about that. But if you got a legit problem, hop on a call, we'll solve it.
It's great. It's great. I just love the approach. It just seems to make so much sense, in a world of noise and uncommon sense, if you like. It just seems to make a lot of common sense. So people are listed clearly, and you have shortcutted, or well, through your own experience now, you've been able to shortcut this process and find a process that can then relate to people for themselves to go through this and be able to find their plan and work towards where they want to go. Where's the best place for people that are listening to actually find out more about this, Laura?
Yeah, I mean, everything's on our website at simplesuccessplans.com. We've got some free resources, and there's a blog there.
Oh, really?
So, dirty little secret. There's a blog there. I just curated my favorite articles, the ones that people seem to resonate with the most. And, dirty little secret, I go in every year and I just change the published dates on them so that they don't look 5 years old.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
And who could blame you, to be honest? Because I'm assuming, therefore, it's evergreen content, right? It works.
Yeah, exactly. And
right?
True story. I don't even do it. I pay somebody to go in and change all the dates for me, because I don't like repetitive work. And
why would you want to do that?
There's a teenager out there somewhere who is like, really, you're going to pay me to do this? Yep. And you don't even have to flip burgers. Yeah.
So Simple Success Plans is the website.
Yep.
And where would people generally start? I mean, I imagine there's a lot, as you say, there's a lot of resources there. So is there a particular resource or tool or download that you would recommend?
There is. I always tell people to start with what we call a daily success checklist, which really works through, what do you need to do to get prepared for the day? I mean, because the day is the thing you have the most control over. So how are you going to plan your day? What do you need to do to prepare for work? What do you need to do during your work time that's really essential? And then a bit of reflection on your day to look back and say, did it go as planned? And if it did, then, what went well and how do I repeat that? And if it didn't go well, what didn't go well? And how do I make that? How do I change tomorrow to make it a little bit better?
Yeah. Perfect. So simplesuccessplans.com/checklist. That's the website. Okay. Well, we'll link to that in the show notes. So do go ahead, simplesuccessplans.com/checklist, and mapping out, as you say, preparing for the start of the day. That sounds infinitely useful for people listening. So in terms of people, go ahead and look at that. And then who's kind of the people you work with? Who's the audience that you work with that you get the best results with and that you feel get the best from working with you as well?
Yeah, so my clients are typically other coaches and consultants.
Oh, that was the cat.
Cat just almost knocking my computer.
I love it. A slight interruption for the cat.
First time she's ever done that. So of course, when we're doing a recording.
That's all good. Is everything in one piece?
Knucklehead. So yeah,
we're keeping that in, by the way. We're keeping that in.
Yeah.
We're keeping that in. Yeah.
Yeah, my audience is other coaches and consultants, folks that are selling their expertise, they're selling their knowledge, and they're sharing their experience with other folks. Those are the people that I really resonate with the most. And so it sort of bleeds over into people that are doing like web design or marketing, and they're helping other businesses and other people get what they want out of their lives. So I generally just kind of say, like coaches and consultants, because most people who are coaches and consultants go, oh yeah, that's me. I know I'm one of them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Well, there's a lot of them that listen to this show. So as I said, first step, looking at the website or checking out the website and get that checklist, simplesuccessplans.com/checklist. We'll circle back to that in a moment, Laura, if we may, but I'd love to, I'm conscious of time. We've just got a few more minutes, but I'd love to ask just a few more questions if
Sure.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I would go into what I would regard as the kind of the quick fire round. It doesn't have to be quick fire responses at all. But is there, and maybe actually following on from the checklist, but is there a particular daily habit or routine or something that you do every single day that maybe is pretty regular, pretty normal, and it really kind of sorts you out for the day, or that maybe is a little bit strange and unique that other people would think, why would you do that?
I don't think I do anything too weird, could be, but I find that practicing a language every single day. So, I've been working on my Spanish. I just use a little app on my phone and it's, like 5 minutes.
That's
great. My best days are when I practice a language and I practice the fiddle. Like I just find that they use such different parts of my brain, and I just have my best ideas when I'm doing something that's completely different than, and nothing that I ever plan on using. Like I'm never going to be on the stage playing the fiddle. I don't,
well, maybe not.
I don't envision living in a Spanish speaking country, but they're just things that I do that I enjoy that use different parts of my brain.
Yeah, I was going to say, and it doesn't have to be driven by targets and goals and such, but obviously you do have targets and goals in the business, but not in in a simple form, as opposed to where other people might be driving harder and harder and harder. Just nice to have something, as you say, that's just for fun ultimately.
Yeah. I have no goals. I have no time targets. Like I'm going to sit down and play the fiddle for however long I feel like practicing. And, if I'm having a really rough day with it, it might be 5 minutes. If I'm really into it, it, might be 30 or 40.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Is there so who would you suggest then? It might be close person, it might be distant, it might be somebody that you've never met, it might even be somebody that's not alive now. But is there a particular person that you feel has had a really big impact on your journey, transition, or life to where you are today?
Yeah, I always think back to one of my favorite historical figures is Eleanor Roosevelt,
Yeah.
who was just such an impactful woman, and particularly at the time that she lived. I mean, she was not a beautiful woman. She had, a horrible voice, and she was in the time of radio, but she just had these really deep convictions that at the time were even unpopular. And she's like, I'm just going to use whatever platform, whatever tool I have to get these ideas out there.
Mm.
And she just was so unconventional and untraditional in so many ways. And I've just always had a great respect for her.
It's great. It's great. Do you have any particular books of hers that you've read, or like website pages, or how do you consume that, or what have you consumed of hers, and through what
Yes,
medium?
so honestly, one of my favorite things to do with her is to just, do a quick Google search and just read the quotes that came from her, right? To do something every day that scares you, right? That's an Eleanor Roosevelt quote. And to just think about, like, okay, well, it doesn't have to terrify me, but let me do something every day that just stretches me just a little bit, or that's a little bit uncomfortable. And I find that so much of that is just the reframing piece, right?
Yeah.
The chemical components of fear and excitement are exactly the same. The difference is just the label we put on them. And so if you can take that thing that you've labeled as fear and label it as excitement, then it's easy to do.
That I love that. I've seen that. I've heard that before at an event. I think it was. It goes back a few years, but that's just triggered something in my mind where I've been at an event and somebody's talked about the fear of doing X, Y, Z, whatever, like speaking on stage, for example,
Yeah.
and just reframing it exactly as you said, rather than saying I'm scared or I'm nervous, to I'm excited. I'm almost telling you, so I'm really excited about this.
Yeah. It's the same chemicals. Your body is experiencing the same thing. You just give it we've just labeled it as fear, and fear is bad. And, it's like, people that go bungee jumping, they're like, it's exciting, and they've just labeled adrenaline as exciting, whereas other people label adrenaline as fear.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. I'm very conscious of time, Laura, so I'm going to go to the final question, if I may. Yep. Rapid fire, last question. The title of the podcast is Influence. So I'd love to know, what does the word influence mean to you?
Influence to me, when I think of the word fluence, I think about flow. And, I just sort of imagine this stream or this river, and influence to me is like, you're in that flow. And I think that when you are in that flow state for yourself, that's when other people gravitate towards you and go, oh, wow, like you've got something going on, and they get in that flow and they go down that river and they go down that stream with you.
Love it. That may be one of my favorite descriptions or interpretations of the word influence. Perfect. Laura, thank you so much for joining. I do greatly appreciate it, and we may even get the opportunity to do it again in the future, I hope. Where should people go to find you, and where should people go from this episode?
They should go to simplesuccessplans.com if they want to learn all the general stuff. And if they want to really get started, simplesuccessplans.com/checklist, and they can download a free copy of our daily success checklist and get started with planning their day.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And is there anything else that you'd like to leave us with, or say, or share? Any final thoughts just before we wrap up?
You know, to quote Einstein, if you can't say it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So focus on simplifying things as much as possible, and you'll find that your life is a whole lot easier and better.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's the perfect place to wrap up. Laura, again, I'm extremely grateful for your time. So thank you so much for joining me. It's very much appreciated.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. And for everybody listening, go ahead to and go check out simplesuccessplans.com for all the info, and simplesuccessplans.com/checklist for the to get started with that checklist as well. Links are in the show notes. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next time. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.